Hello and welcome to the Life and Fight of a podcast. I am Jake Cross as normal, and I'm joined today by my co-host as always, Simon Price. How's it going, Si?
What's up? Yeah, all good, mate. Weather could do with perking up a little bit though, to be fair.
I just realised my sound isn't even in.
Oh.
How are you listening to me?
No, it must be through the webcam mic. So if you notice the difference in the sound quality now, Jake's changed his microphone over.
Is it better?
Sounds a bit clearer now.
That's fine. I always unplug them just when I'm not using them, just so they don't overload. But anyway, about to know. Sorry, Si, how are you doing, sorry?
Yeah, I'm doing good, mate. Weather could do with perking up a little bit, like I said, but I'm good, mate. Yeah, about yourself?
Yeah, I'm looking out the window now. It's whitey grey sky. It's funny because at the weekend I was getting some work done in the house. A couple of mates builders were working outside, and outside it was raining for the 2 days, and then it hits yesterday and it was a bit nice, and today it's not raining. I'm just like, poor sods, it's raining on for 2 days. I was getting a window and door bricked up on the side of my house because I don't use them, and I'm using the kitchen there and stuff, but it's just stuff that I can do whilst we're at home and we're not doing anything.
Oh, of course.
But apart from that, yeah, just a busy weekend events. We had UFC 250, which we'll discuss. We'll do a bit of review of that. Look ahead towards this weekend's UFC, Jessica Ryan Calvillo. And then I'll go down the nostalgia route of there was a wrestling pay-per-view this weekend in Your House Takeover.
Yeah, you were talking about it just before we were recording. It was kind of making me miss wrestling, if I'm honest. But there's that much on now. It's sort of like I struggle to fit things in to watch. But I really do miss the Friday nights watching Raw and getting up Saturday morning to watch SmackDown and.
They were the days back in the early 2000s and stuff. Yeah, I agree with that. Fighting for my dad to watch Sky on a Friday night at 9-10 o'clock when he's watching his rugby or whatever's on. When there's only one Sky box and there's no record. But yeah, I agree. But I'll touch on it a little bit more in detail later. But the WWE network at the minute, and it's been out for years now, it's like $9.99 a month. That's their one, by the way. They've just released a free version, so it'll probably have more ads than anything. But it's got a lot of their back catalogue. It's got some pay-per-views that you can watch. It has Raw and SmackDown up until I think it's 4 weeks ago, so you can go through all that. I just think it might be more adverts, a bit like when you're on Facebook and you're on videos and the adverts come up and stuff. But I think that's their tier thing they're looking at the minute. They've got the free one, they'll have the $10 one or £10 one, and then I think they'll do one a bit bigger than that where they'll start to sign maybe smaller independent promotions, maybe like Ring of Honor. And I'd glad to pay for that because I watched that anyway, just in one setting. It makes it easy, a bit like Netflix all in one. It has all your movies and films and TV series. But yeah, let's hit 250, dude. What did you think overall?
Do you know, overall, some great fights. There was some great finishes. Two of them. We'll talk about them when we come to them on the card. But I'm torn between two finishes, my favorite finishes.
Yeah, to me, there's we'll touch on it. There's one of the most technical finishes I've seen, and then one of the most brutal finishes I've seen.
Yeah, I think they were both quite the way I look at. I think the O'Malley one was a slightly more technical with the fate and stuff that was involved in it. But yeah, just Cody's head movement and opening up the shot, and for me, I'm more in awe at the timing of it as well. On the buzzer, you couldn't write it.
Definitely not. We'll start at the beginning of the card, though, so we'll work towards them. So we'll talk about them in detail because some of them are beautiful. But you had Herbert Burns, Evan Dunham. So Herbert's brother's obviously won in the main event the week before. So it's a bit crazy that he beat Woodley in the main event, and then next technical UFC fight is his brother the week later, the first fight of the next card. So Herbert looked very good, but to me, his stand-up, I don't know whether he was scared of Dunham's stand-up or he just wanted that takedown because he looked a bit all over the place. But once he got hold of... did you watch this one? I don't know if you watched the first three prelims.
You know what? I didn't even realise it was early prelims. Were they on Fight Pass or were they on...
So The takedown was beautiful. So he finally got his back, but stood up. So he got the gable grip. He's holding on to him, and then he throws his right leg round, and then hooks Dunham's left leg, and sort of sits back and trips him. And then so he like, sat down backpack sort of mode there. Gets the hooks in, and then finishes Dunham. Rear naked choke. 1 minute 20 of round one. Dunham looked as powerful as ever. They always say, don't they, when you get a bit older, that your power's already there. It's just your speed, and you could tell his shots are so hard. He just unlucky. Both were black belts, but Herbert you could just tell he was a Brazilian black belt.
Yeah, just different class in.
Yeah, like Dunham's a legit black belt, but I think the age, the size, the power, I think just got him. And Herbert, like Gilbert, Herbert is one to watch as well.
Maybe he could be the stage as well. Like, was it Dunham's first fight for the UFC, was it? Or
Evans?
Herbert's?
No, they both. Well, Dunham's been in the UFC for years. He had a bit of a break from what I remember. But Herbert's on like, I think a 5-fight win streak now.
Oh, wow.
Let me have a look. He's on a 5-fight win streak, but in the UFC, he won the Contender Series. Then he made his debut in the UFC against, I'll try and pronounce this right, Nate Landwehr. Nate is a guy that fought a few weeks ago. He was the M1 Global Featherweight Champion, and Herbert won that by knees from the clinch, so he has got good stand-up. So, and he fought at 150 for this fight, so he's a general featherweight. So Herbert is definitely one to watch. Maybe in the future, Gilbert and Herbert could be the champions simultaneously. We don't know.
No, it would be quite interesting, that, to be fair.
The next one was more disappointing because I had more looking out for Alonzo Menifield. Alonzo was finishing people who's 9-0, wasn't really coming out the first round. Devin Clark weathered the first round, and then his speed, power in his gas tank just did everything more than Alonzo could. Alonzo was tired. You could see that after 2.5 minutes. I was speaking to Catherine about it when we was watching it, just saying like it's done this. Even though it's still a first round, Devin's going to overtake him, outpace him, outwork him, and it worked. Decision unanimous, Devin Clark. That's the thing is, because when you win constantly and you're not losing, you don't really change much. And if you're stronger and more powerful in the gym and your teammates are up to the level of you, you're going to have a quick gas tank because no one's really testing you and pushing you and making you push that level. Maybe this pushed him a little bit because Alonzo, he's got good power. Like, he literally made Devin Clark's, I'm trying to think what picture was, left eye blown up within 2 punches of the first round, and he was blinking and covering his eye and stuff like that. But Devin just overtook him with his gas. So that was a decent fight for Clark. Alonzo, I was disappointed in a lot. Perez and Formiga, 2 cards in a row where there's been finishes by leg kick, and Jose Formiga is one of the best flyweights in the country. Sorry, in the world, sorry, not country. But Alex Perez just looked a lot bigger. He was hitting him with them calf kicks. Formiga was trying to change stances, but it was too much. And referee stepped in. I think he went down twice by the calf kicks, and referee was just like, no, you're done. You can't keep on doing this.
See, they're quite interesting, the calf kicks, because they are very debilitating. But there's been quite a wave, really, hasn't there, where there's been a lot more fighters using them to slow their opponent down. So, like, our strikers going to start to adjust their training now so they can learn to check these kicks.
Yeah, Joe Rogan made a good point. It's like, this is sort of like a wave, like you say, a lot of more people are using them. But I think it'll keep on going until, again, which we've not seen in a long time, so touch wood, it's not happening. Some breaks level like Anderson Silva or people like that. It's a nasty way, and it can put you out probably indefinitely. Because, yeah, one check and you're done. And people will start to get used to them doing that. And there'll be certain fighters which will be a lot better than that. We'll talk about it later on, but you've seen like Cody Garbrandt doing the sort of the calf kicks, but probably dropping his weight and sliding across the floor to do it. So there'll be a lot more different ways that you'll see it. But they are nasty. Because once your leg starts to go, you've got no base, you've got no power, no timing. You start to be more wary about his kicks and more about your game plan or her game plan if the lady's doing it. So Perez looked great there. Maybe we'll look at Perez going towards that title shot soon, because Formiga has beat Figueroa Devadio, I can't remember how to pronounce his name. Basically, the guy that won the title by missing weight against Benavidez last time. That's getting rebooked in July. Okay. So Perez could probably shoot himself to a top contender spot after this, which is pretty decent. I think the last one maybe that you didn't see is
this was the first one on the card. This one.
Oh, was it the first one?
Yeah.
Again, just like the Alonso Menefield, I felt like Charles Bird let himself down a lot in this thing. He let strong positions get
very good in the first round, didn't
he? Yeah. You talk us through this one first. This is the first one you've seen.
Like, he come out super strong in the first round, looked very impressive, and Pitolo almost on the back foot, I think, for the whole of the round, defending. And second round, it was just a change of pace, almost as if Pitolo's corner said some sort of word in his ear, woke him up, and a different fighter came out in the second round. Like I said, the fight was very entertaining though, like on both parts. But it's almost as if Bird got kind of overwhelmed in the second round, and that's where the loss came. But great finish though, and it was a good call as well.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. The Pitolo seemed to have the resilience to sort of work through Charles Bird's strength and power, because when Charles looked on top, he looked powerful, but then when he started to transition, that's when the hole started to get seen by Pitolo, when he started to switch it round. But yeah, I liked this fight a lot. I think both of them are ones to watch for the future. Charles maybe could go a bit further, but it's weird. His record is now 10-7. He looks a lot better than a 10-7 guy.
Done a three fight loss streak as well at the moment in the UFC.
Yeah, maybe that gets cut and goes somewhere else, and maybe learns again.
Yeah, it's probably because how old is he? He is 36. Oh, I don't know. I think if he's going to do something with his career, he's got maybe 2 years to, I'd say, to sort of climb the top of the ranks. Middleweight, you've got a bit more time as age doesn't have the great like that division upwards.
Yeah,
you tend to get the older fighters because you're not fighting speed as much anymore.
Yeah,
welterweight and below.
I agree with that.
As soon as you get old, you lose your speed, and that's when the losses start to really snowball. But I think something needs to change in Bird's camp, I think, if he wants to have a good turnaround.
I agree. The next one was a very fun fight. So we touched on this last week, but Brian Kelleher, this is his third fight this year already. He lost this one, so he's now 2-1. But he had a submission victory, he's had a knockout victory, and now he's lost by a decision. So no one's putting him away. He's putting people away. People are finding it hard against him. Cody Starman, guy went through a lot. I didn't realise this till I think the day before weigh-ins. His brother passed away the week before. Wow. I've not really looked too much into the story, but it shows a lot of mental fortitude in the fact that you could still go out there and have that mental capacity to even fight, never mind win.
It kind of says a lot that he must have put it in some sort of box in the back of his mind, because as soon as that announcement was there, he broke down. And I didn't fully understand what was happening. Yeah. I think I had to do a bit of research, and yeah, when I found out the same thing that you found out, I was like, I totally understand. I get it. Like, it takes some strength to be able to go through something like that.
I agree. But the fight in general, I enjoyed this fight. Both tough cookies, both are durable. Starman built, he's a big sort of stocky guy, whereas Brian's very fast. He moves in different ways, sort of like a Dominic Cruz sort of effect. Maybe not to the level of that, but he's got that sort of feel where he moves and mixes it up and keeps people guessing. But yeah, again, I think Calvillo, like I say, decision. He's not been knocked out or anything, so maybe he could still be active. Maybe 3 more fights in the next 6 months of the year, maybe more. Obviously, with how many these are turning around and maybe pullouts and stuff. But I enjoy this one. I give it Cody the win in my eyes, though. Anyway.
Oh yeah, no, I've got no gripes with the decision on this one. But I've got to say, Kelleher he's entertaining. Like, I think regardless of record, I think he's going to be one that the UFC keep on board because they know his game to entertain.
Yeah.
If I'm being brutally honest, I'm not sure if I see a title contention anytime soon.
From either, or you mean talk about Brian?
From Brian, but I can see him making a real entry into sort of like that top 5 and making some statements with his fights.
Yeah.
But I'd really easily watch him again. He's entertaining from what I saw there.
I agree. Next up was a fight which was it's sort of a strange one. So I don't know if you read about this too much, but Ian, again, I'm probably going to butcher these names, but Ian Henich and Gerald Michart. So one of Ian's camp, one of his coaches tested positive on, I think it was Wednesday last week. So they pulled Ian out of the fight completely. And they had, I think it was Anthony Ivy, a newcomer, I think that name's right, for Gerald just to step in and take the fight. I think they've got a few of them waiting in the background anyway. And then they retested him and his camp, so the guy that tested positive, and it came out negative. So it must have been a false positive because I think they've tested him a couple of times since it's all fine. So the fight was back on. What do you think of this one?
If I'm being honest, during the announcements, I sort of looked at it and I was like, one of them ones where I'd be like, oh, do you know what? I've got a few messages. I'll check my phone while during this fight. Minute into it, I was like, what did I miss? So I had to rewind it.
Yeah.
Beautiful finish. And completely unexpected, if I'm honest with you.
I had Ian to win this, but by decision. I thought Gerald would have been more trouble enough, but the shot that he landed in with would take out most people. Ian's a very, very powerful guy. The record's crazy between these two, though, because it's like he's just gone to 14-3, now Gerald's 31-13. He's had going into this fight, he was more or less on the same amount of losses as Ian had wins, which is crazy for just shows how durable these fighters are. Losses in MMA, we've spoken about this before, don't mean as much as they do in boxing, where it can end careers, where sometimes a learning curve, sometimes it's just a hungry guy. I don't see losses as bad as others. Maybe towards the end, like you look at Donald Cerrone and sort of look, maybe because of the way he's getting finished now, you start to worry about him, maybe because we love him that much. But there's certain guys that could get beat 10 times, all by decision. But could have 40 more wins. Like if you look at like Alistair Overeem's record, stuff like that, records, obviously it's more winning streaks rather than records especially in the UFC. Because you could have a 1-fight loss like Aldo and get a title shot because it's all about your history as well. But I think it's more about your winning streaks. Like you had, who was it?
I think it's more the nature of the loss that says more than the actual loss itself. So, for example, the Aldo when he was in WEC knocking out when he won the title,
Mike Brown.
That for me, that loss from Mike Brown wouldn't have been a career-ending loss because you could argue Aldo's great timing for his knee, but also in the same light, Mike Brown made a mistake and got caught hanging. Whereas a loss like the Woodley and Usman fight, that makes a statement.
Yeah.
And that shows, okay, you're going to have to win the title shot back.
Yeah, I feel like if Woodley would have made the statement against Gilbert Burns, he could have been straight back against Usman. Maybe just like I said, he had an off day, but now he's had 2 off days, but not off days as in like he got caught. Off days where he just hasn't performed. Yeah. And in the Gilbert fight, he did get caught early and he did struggle for the rounds, but even when the 4th or 5th round, when you can tell he's definitely recovered by then, there was no just go for it. There was just even 10 seconds ago, and then he started swinging. It's like, well, now it's too late, you muppet.
Yeah, if I was like Gilbert, if I was Gilbert, there, I'd have been like, mate, I've won this fight. I'm not gonna risk stepping in and making mistakes.
So Ian got that win, so it's great for Ian, especially considering a few days before he's technically out of that fight. So I guess that's what these stories are written for. Next up, we spoke about this just off air a little bit, but Alex Caceres and Chase Hooper. Chase Hooper was a massive favourite in this one, and Caceres was a massive underdog. Chase was a 9-0. I think the hype was behind him because there's them jokes about him being Ben Askren's illegitimate son and stuff like that. I don't know if you've seen the interview where he was interviewing Jorge Masvidal, and he went, why did you knock out my dad? And Masvidal's like a bit out of, so who's your dad? And it's like, Ben Askren, and he just went, good one. Like, he's a funny guy, and I think the hype was behind him, and I'll let you talk through this fight, because you hit the nail on the head before we went out live.
Yeah, like, he's not grown into his career yet. I think it's a little bit too much too soon. So I'm drawing back on when we spoke to Mokaev.
Yeah.
And he was like, he's biding his time to turn pro. He's waiting till he's ready. He's not going to take unnecessary fights. He's weight training. And I think Chase Hooper has got very far without too many physical attributes.
Yeah.
And if I'm being honest, he probably needs another year or two on smaller shows before coming to the UFC. Like, don't get me wrong, the guy, his record deserves to be there. But, like, in this fight, it showed it. Like, Alex Caceres, he's not the most physical of people. Like, just looking at him, he's not the biggest 145er. He's tall and lanky, but he essentially just manhandled Chase during a lot of the exchanges, and Chase had no answer for the strength and the physicality of it. So I think Chase's next step is to spend the next 12 months putting some size on, getting stronger, and growing into that division. Like, and doing it in the right way where he's not going to overgrow and be forced into 155 unless he sees that that's the appropriate move.
Yeah, I think especially with like Alex Caceres, we've watched him for many years. Like, I'm going to his record now, and it don't even feel like that long, even though it's been a while. He made his UFC debut in March 2011, so he's 10 years in the UFC, the year before that, he was only Ultimate Fighter 12, so he's had like 10 years working with the UFC, and he's mixed wins and losses. He's probably 50-50 in the UFC, but he's entertaining. He can fight. He's fought some great guys, like even earlier on, he fought Damasio Page, Cole Escovedo, Roland Delorme, Sergio Pettis. He's fought Faber, Rivera, Cole Miller, Yair Rodriguez, and Kron Gracie, and obviously now Chase. He's fought great guys and traded 50-50 record, more or less. One thing I do miss about Caceres, and I feel like it sort of gives him the full package and people attract towards him, is when he comes out in the sort of yellow suit for... why has my mind gone blank, Simon?
For his Bruce Lee?
Bruce Lee. My mind went completely blank then. I liked that, and now I've heard rumours. I think it's the end of this year, the Reebok deal ends. It'd be very interesting to see what happens then, because I would prefer it to sort of go back to the old way or less stringent, where, like, for instance, if another, like say Adidas stepped in or something like that, where they could turn around and go, right, Caceres, we're going to make you an Adidas Bruce Lee yellow suit, stuff like that,
there's too much money for the UFC in having a exclusive sponsorship deal. Like, for me, it was a really, really poor taste move, if I'm honest with you. It was around the time that they were selling the business to the new investment group,
company.
And essentially they brought USADA on board and Reebok on board to make it look more viable on paper, without looking at the repercussions. And it actually left the majority of the roster out of pocket from sponsorship deals.
Did you know that to be a sponsor of the UFC pre-Reebok, just to get your foot in the door, was a $50,000 bond?
Wow.
So say, for instance, like I know there's a company that
sponsor the UFC or for sponsor one of the athletes?
Sponsor in the UFC. So the story I got here, there's a company that's still around that I worked with years ago called Monkey Nutrition. They sponsored. I
remember the
but part of Sub North and stuff like that. I can't remember what fighter they sponsored, but it was in the UFC at the time, and they, to even get their logo on the banner behind them when there was banners, that was $50,000 because they had to be vetted by the UFC. So the UFC got $50,000 because the amount of revenue the UFC believed that the sponsee could get out of it. So a lot of people just didn't even bother with it, which is crazy, the amount of money. But yeah, I'd be interested to see what happens next. Because I don't think Reebok is going to stay. From what I've heard, they don't see any rumblings about renegotiation.
I think they will, you know. I'm not really wanting to go down the political route with this because we're in the middle of the UFC card. But after what the CEO of CrossFit tweeted over the week, was it yesterday or the day before, with regards to the whole George Floyd incident, Reebok are no longer going to renegotiate their contract with CrossFit. So that will leave more money in the kitty for them
what happened there?
So I'm not sure the original tweet, but the CEO, or basically the owner of CrossFit, replied to a COVID-19 health, like a tweet sort of talking about the public health, saying it's Floyd 19. Exactly. Like really poor taste and idiotic. Like there's no excuse for anything like that. And like I say, after that, Reebok have made the statement where they're no longer going to sponsor the CrossFit Games, which it may leave more money in the kitty for when they're gonna, because they want to stay relevant in sports. So I think they're gonna fight for this UFC contract now. They're no longer going to get the exposure from CrossFit.
Yeah, I think it'll go to the highest bidder, and maybe I don't know who the sort of people that take over. Maybe I know Umbro's fighting for a lot of contracts right now. That could be a massive thing with Umbro. And Umbro is not as big as maybe it was in the 90s, which is probably bigger than it was in the 90s per capita, or however you want to say it. But Umbro and Alessi and stuff like, you know what I'm talking about, the old school stuff.
Yeah.
That was big in the 90s. But now, Umbro's taking a lot of contracts. It's in football. I've got a mate that works there that he'll hate me because, you know, I'm supposed to keep certain things secret. I won't release anything, but stuff that they're going for. And they're fighting hard for athletes and sports and football teams and all that stuff.
Makes sense that, because they went more of a lifestyle brand, didn't they? Kind of like the Alessi and stuff. They've gone more of a retro fashion brand as opposed to what they're known for as a sports brand.
Yeah. So, but maybe the big dogs come in, maybe like Nike or Adidas or anything like that. Or it could be someone like Under Armour, do something that they've worked with before.
I think that would be the more sensible choice if they left Reebok. But what I'd like them to see is be like, okay, you're going to sponsor the events, but we're going to allow the fighters to have their own sponsors to a certain degree.
My feeling on this has always been, I'm sorry to cut you off there, sorry. So you have Reebok, then you've got Monster, the headphones, Dre Beats. You've got 3 or 4 things that are normally added on, depending on who you are. I think as you are more champions, you get a Monster or whatever. But what I see is, and a bit like it's a cornerman thing. So in a normal fight, you get 3 cornerman. In a title fight, you get 4. So what I say is, you're sponsored by Reebok, so you get your tiers in that. Then you can bring in 2 sponsors of your own. You can have a higher tier sponsor and a lower tier sponsor yourself. You bring them in. They've still got to be vetted by the UFC to make sure it doesn't clash with anything.
Yeah.
Obviously, say they've got Bud Light and then you're sponsored by Miller Lite. That's a clash. You can't do stuff like that. I get that. But then, as you are a champion and for championship fights, you can bring in a third one, which is agreed by the UFC. So say, for instance, you've got a third big thing, like say, I don't know, argument's sake, Ford, the car. You're sponsored by Ford or anything like that, or Mercedes-Benz or whatever. Mercedes come in and say, I want to sponsor Conor McGregor for this title fight. And Conor's like, yeah, I've negotiated that. Is it all right? Yeah, okay. It's not really a clash with Harley-Davidson. It's a car. That's a bike. Sweet, that works. And then Conor loses that fight, and then he's not in a title fight again. Okay, Mercedes steps away, but he could still be sponsored by Mercedes on the back of that.
Outside.
Yeah, because it would work better that way. Fighters get more. There's not really argument about pay as much. Obviously, not everyone always wants to be paid more, even us. Up to millionaires to us that earn tens of thousands of pounds a year. People always want more, a bit like we're seeing now with John Jones and O'Malley and Masvidal, etc. But I feel like that would work. I think the UFC and the way it's built is too selfish to do that. You might push one through the door, and I think it'll be jumping through a lot of hoops and a lot of money on the line, a bit like the £50,000 bonds and stuff. What's your thoughts on it?
I think what I'd like to see is a bit more flexibility for the fighters lower down on the card. Because a lot of them, the money they get from their sponsors is going to be more than the fight purse.
Yeah.
And that could be the difference of essentially like whether they're able to afford things for their family. Like, so it's a 10 and 10 from what I've heard. The original, the first sort of your first fight is the basic.
It's 12 to
12 now. It's 12 and 12 now.
Yeah.
So 12 to show, 12 to win. Now, out of that cut, you've still got to pay for your own corner. You've still got to pay for your own coaching. You've got to pay for accommodation. You've got to pay for travel. Or you've got to pay your manager's fees. You've got to pay, I'd imagine there'll be some sort of cut that the UFC takes for organising the fight. And I think once everything's there, I can imagine the fighter being left with, if they say they win, they get 24K. I reckon after all of that, they'll probably be left with 10K maybe. And now for 3 months of work, 10K, and you can fight 4 times a year, 40K for a professional athlete, it doesn't really leave much wiggle room to allow them to train to the full capacity, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's obviously the tax on top of that, and there's certain states in America, I don't know which they are off the top of my head, but where tax is inflated for people that are not from that state. So there's certain fighters that won't fight in states because of that reason. Because I think it's like an extra 20% on top of what you've already been taxed anyway, which is crazy. Like you look at the rise of star of Sean O'Malley, which is the next fight. His contract at the minute is 40 and 40, and he's drawing a lot of people in, and I still think that's low.
Yeah.
But yeah, touching on that Hooper Caceres fight, good fight. Hooper's still got a lot to learn, a lot to grow. Caceres is just is now a veteran now. He still looks so young and stuff like that, but he's going to be one of these fighters which are going to be fun to watch. He'll have a 50-50 record probably until he leaves the UFC and then retires. But after this fight, I don't think he'll ever going to count him out again. It really looks on the fight on paper rather than who's got what height, because I think he could take out a lot of people.
I can see him being a sort of a top 5 gatekeeper, but if he performs the way he performed last night in his future fights, I can see him taking a serious run, if I'm honest.
Yeah, you can tell this. You watched this yesterday because it was 3 days ago, not last night. Next up, we had Sean O'Malley and Eddie Wineland. Now, on this one, obviously everyone was picking Sean O'Malley, which I was one of them. But I felt like because Eddie was Eddie, I feel like he could have upset this. But one thing that I was annoyed about, the commentators didn't pick up on, and I picked up on immediately. So he hits him with a body kick, so a spinning back kick to the body. Then he hits him with a right body kick. Then he hits him with an over right hand. And you see him sort of go in a couple more times, but Eddie Wineland looks like he's dodging and weaving out the way. He's not dodging and weaving. He's out on his feet already. He literally just like starts wobbling a little bit and coming round. And then he stood in front of him and he's not even flinching. And then O'Malley fakes that uppercut over right hand, and he's out. But he's already out on his feet. If you watch that fight back, he's out on his feet already.
I think I might have to go back and watch this one, to be honest.
The finish was beautiful. Spinning back hits the body, right body kick, over right hand. He's out on his feet. Fake uppercut, over right hand, boom, walk away. And one thing that was nasty was Eddie Wine's head bounced twice, and I hate seeing stuff like that. But referee was quick seeing it. Even O'Malley recognised it.
Walked away. It was a beautiful finish, if I'm honest. Like, and I think O'Malley could walk away from that knowing that he performed. And I didn't see Wineland getting put away, if I'm honest with you.
I didn't.
I genuinely thought he would have took him to a decision, and barring O'Malley's hair, I really enjoyed it.
Actually, I'm trying to think now. I think I actually predicted a finish for O'Malley. I'm just looking at my topology now. I think I predicted second round, not first. But I think I could still see an upset. I think I know what you're saying. The thing that I liked in this fight was how good O'Malley looked generally. He looked comfortable in there for this sort of stage, even though he's had a bit of time out and stuff, and I know he came back more recently, but he just feel like he's got the full package. I'd like to see him step up a little bit, because this is sort of like a step up, but still against a veteran. He's 12-0 now. He's probably top 15. Where do you put him in that division? 135 is stacked. He was saying about Aljo and Cejudo and stuff like that. I don't think he's there yet. I really don't. Maybe that Cody Sandhagen, who's just got beat by Aljo, obviously that'll be a fight we'll talk about in a couple of minutes, but maybe that's the fight to make next. But then again, a win versus a loss, it's a stacked division either way, and I think you'll get that through and through. But O'Malley, definitely one to watch. One of the guys that will be very outspoken. He's already said straight away he should be on more money. He wants to renegotiate his contract, even though his last fight, it was the renegotiation. He's got all the one before that. So we'll see. I'm excited though.
He's in his right. He's in his rights to do it though, and like he's becoming a draw. And I think the louder he become, like he's not being. I don't think he's being obnoxious and sort of rude with the ways that he's sort of speaking out. I think he's bringing up fairly valid points, as opposed to like your Conor McGregor way of being outspoken and being quite crass with it.
You're right. The next fight was Neil Magny against Anthony Rocco Martin. I didn't really enjoy this fight. I
enjoyed the last round.
Yes. It was more of a grinding fight than anything the first two rounds.
I didn't see it as 30-27 because it was 30-27 once at the scorecard. Like for me, I thought Magny was going to get put away in that first round.
Yeah. I thought it was 29-28 to Magny.
Yeah, that's the way I scored it.
I could see Martin taking 29-28. It was definitely round 1 and 3, and then it's a second round, which was the up in the air. I did feel like Magny did more in the effect of the overall fight if you were scoring it on pride, but I think Martin did control the bout more, if that makes sense. It was a very, very strange fight. I think maybe stylistically it just didn't work for them this fight. They didn't really come out of the comfort zone. They're both scared of each other in a way of they know they're both finishers. But I do like Magny a lot. I do like following him since the Ultimate Fighter. Rocco is probably one to watch for the future. I think he's going to be a grinder for a long time. And I've got nothing really much to say on that one.
I think Magny maybe needs to figure out his first rounds. Like from one thing I'm noticing, he's very slow to start, which against the higher ranked players, that's not gonna bode very well. Yeah. Like I said, I enjoy watching him. I do enjoy watching him fight, and he's got some really good wins on him. But he needs to get out of first gear a lot quicker.
No, I agree. The next fight, this fight, Aljamain Sterling and Cody Sandhagen. So on paper, this could have been Fight of the Night. Aljamain Sterling is one of the best fighters I've probably ever seen, because I just like entertaining fighter. He can talk the talk, he can walk the walk. But this performance, even though we've talked about one knockout of the night, and we'll talk about the co-main event in a minute, and Amanda Nunes as well, I think this performance was the best of the night.
Yeah. Well, I'm torn between that and Sean O'Malley's performance, if I'm honest with you.
That's fair enough. The reason I say that is because even Ariel Helwani, and I agree with him, this fight should have been put on another card and put for the vacant bantamweight title, because you're 12-1 versus 18-3. You had two of the guys that were on a run that deserved the title shot, and this could have been a title fight. And this just shows how good these two are, and how he put them away in less than 90 seconds, the way he put them away. And they're both legitimate grapplers. They're both black belts. I think I got this right anyway. They're both black belts. Aljamain Sterling made Corey look like a blue belt. Like, it was just, what a performance. I was literally, when he finished him, my jaw dropped, and I was just like, wow, that was so impressive.
Such a good finish. Like, and the tenacity and just the constant chasing of it. And I think for post-fight interviews as well, I think he had one of the better ones of the night. Yeah. Might be because he didn't really exert himself in the fight and he wasn't that tired. But yeah, I think he did. I'm lost for words. Like, it was such a good performance.
So you think about it next, you either have Sterling versus Aldo or Sterling versus Petr Yan, depending on who wins the title bout next month. I know there's COVID-19 and the restrictions and stuff, but for me, to promote this fight and the way how good he's on the mic and how good that performance is, you take him to Fight Island where this fight's happening. You get him in that crowd, do his check just like he was, like anyone else. You get him in that crowd, and then afterwards get them both in the cage and facing each other, because they both would have passed the test by then. And when a month down the line and it's on a Fight Island, so it'll be more restricted and stuff. Mate, Aldo versus Sterling or Petr Yan versus Sterling, I'm all in. I would buy the pay-per-view for that. That is a phenomenal fight. And if I'm honest, Aldo's had his day in my eyes. He's won his title, and I love him. He's one of the best fighters ever. But I want Aljamain Sterling to have that bantamweight belt.
I was just about to say the same thing. I love Aldo. I love what he's achieved. But I don't fully grasp how he's got the title shot.
Yeah, I did think he beat Marlon Moraes by decision, but don't leave it in the hands of the judges. I would have maybe ran that fight back more than anything, and then done Peter. But Petr Yan's great. Petr Yan is one of the best fighters I've ever seen as well, especially in that division.
Really great.
But he's not sold it to me as an all-rounder, mic skills, etc. I know he's not, English isn't his first language, but he's not really. You just see he's great fighting. When you think all-round package, Aljamain Sterling, and that's what the division needs at 135, and someone needs at 125, because Demetrius Johnson and Henry Cejudo and the fighters of recently of them divisions, they weren't the best on the mic. DJ is probably one of the greatest of all time in my eyes.
It didn't come naturally to them. It seemed very forced.
Cejudo felt forced.
Yeah, I enjoyed DJ because he was just being himself. Like, he's like, I come to train. Here's my family. I'm going to let you into my life, when it was like the countdown shows and stuff. But I never got the call out, I'm going to win everybody in the division type of thing. It was just I'm going to get in there, do my job, go home to my wife and kids, and enjoy the rest of the night.
Yeah, that's why I'm excited about Aljo. I'm excited about Aljo versus Yan. I think I would prefer Aljo versus Yan than Aljo versus Aldo. That's fucking all sounds the fucking same. But Sterling, for me, performance of the night. When you've got a card which had performances all the way through, it stood out for me. I just think he looked so fucking good, and I can't wait to see what's next for him. I hope he don't get backed up with draws or controversy or anything like that. I hope Yan and Aldo is a great fight. We have a 100% winner. And then maybe if we're lucky enough, September, October time, we get Sterling versus the winner of that. If Sterling gets put in another bout before a title fight, I'll be fucked off because he shouldn't even be anywhere near that. And I think Sterling, one of them people where he would sit out.
Oh yeah, but then we got to look at as well, like where, like with talking this is next for Sterling, like fighting the winner of Jan and Aldo. What happens with O'Malley? Like he's certainly made a statement with his next win.
I don't think it's anywhere near title shot.
No, but I think he needs that top 10 sort of fight next. Like after.
So at the minute, Aljo's ranked the number 1 bantamweight on tap. This is on Tapology. I think let's go through the rankings for O'Malley. Then let's quickly do that. So
yeah,
Sterling.
I've got the UFC ones up there as well.
Yeah, so Sterling definitely not for O'Malley. I'm going to go 1 to 15. Marlon definitely not. Jan definitely not. Garbrandt definitely not. Pedro Munoz has got Frankie Edgar, so that can't be done. Sang Dagan's coming off a loss. Sunshaw's coming off a loss. Aldo's fighting for the title. Maybe Jimmy Rivera, maybe, but that'll be a top fight.
Cody Starman.
Where's Cody?
That might be.
Where's Cody in your rankings on there?
Cody Starman here is 12 on the UFC rankings. Or even Song Yadong. That'd be a good fight for
featherweight.
I've got the UFC bantamweight here.
Oh, I thought he was finger. So where is?
I didn't realise Dodson was still fighting as well.
Dodson might be a good one.
Yeah.
So where's O'Malley? O'Malley on mine is 13th. Where's he on yours?
He's not on the top 15.
So he's 13th on this. Maybe someone like Rob Font or Jimmy Rivera, I would say. Maybe that's most likely. That'll break him into sort of the top 10. Or maybe Dodson. Dominic Cruz is ranked number 12. I don't think he's... Cruz is not a 12th ranked guy in my eyes. On here anyway. He's definitely a top 5, but obviously because he's been out so long and then the loss.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the co-main event then. This is another 135-pound division, which can mess with rankings. Sunshao and Garbrandt. Now, I've got a Sunshao in my draft team thing, so I was also going to back a Sunshao. This is a fight where I thought it could go either way. I thought a Sunshao was waiting too much to win the fight. I thought he was sort of trying to counter.
I don't think he expected Cody to come out like this. I know I certainly didn't. Yeah, Cody came out like he had a firework shoved up his ass.
But in the same way, he looked so calm. He was like, power, bang, relaxed, circle, bang. And then he was coming in with the calf kicks. And I think in the second round, he came with that weird sort of sliding calf kick. He looked like he was trying more things to unsettle Rafael. And I think that was a fight which either of them could knock either of them out here.
No.
But let's talk about the finish. The reason why maybe O'Malley's was maybe a bit better than this because it was technical wise and this was less technical was because Sunshao sort of came diving in with a knee. It sort of reminded me of the Cruz Cejudo finish.
Yeah.
They sort of clashed into each other and then it was the main old sort of boxing thing that you've got the spring, you reset to your right or your left and now you throw the hook and the momentum when it went boom. It was so powerful. You heard that. I love this finish. And this was another jaw dropping one where you just go. And then they sit a Sunshao down and he's falling off the stool. He was fucked.
Yeah, like, because the way that he was moving around, he was ready to have that technical exchange with his back against the cage. Like, it wasn't a lucky shot. Like, a Sunshao sort of stepped back with his hands down and looking like he was ready to throw. And I think Garbrandt was ready to roll underneath and come up with a counter. But then when nothing was sent his way, he come up and caught it.
The finish was beautiful. Definitely controlling the fight. Maybe the first one was definitely Cody's. But it was weird. I think from memory on the stats, Sunshao's significant strikes were higher than Cody's. So I would maybe love to see in the first round of that card. Obviously, it was weird because you couldn't really see a second round card because that strike was the most. Obviously, it finished the fight. So maybe up until that 4 minutes 58 seconds, who was winning that round?
I think the movement speed and like with the Garbrandt just chopping at him, I think that kind of startled the Sunshine as well. I genuinely didn't expect him to come out this way. Like, we know Garbrandt, we know what Garbrandt's capable of, but we also know of recent performances that it doesn't always go the way you expect. Like, 3-fight loss streak against 3 of the arguably top-ranked fighters in the division. But as soon as you take emotion out of it and you give him that time to breathe, he could perform. And I think his downfall was the Dillashaw fights where he put that much emotionally into the fight that he got clouded with everything and just wanted to go for the knockout rather than the win.
Yeah, I think with this division, I think it's a lot clearer at the title side end. So you got the title fight that we discussed a minute ago, Aldo and Jan. You got Sterling next. I don't think you can take that away from him. No. Even with this Cody finish straight after. I could see an argument that Cody might step into the title fight after this, but I think Sterling... 3-fight loss streak, former champion. I would love to see next for Garbrandt is Marlon Moraes. Garbrandt and Marlon Moraes would be a great fight. That could be the number 1 contender fight. So you got Sterling steps in against because it would sort of work out about right. So you would have next month Jan and Aldo, then in say 3 or 4 months, the winner of that versus Sterling. And then on the same card as the co-main, just in case anything happens to the title fights, you have Marlon Moraes and Garbrandt because they could both argue that they could be title challengers.
Yeah.
So I think
maybe depending on how it happens, maybe the matchmakers might want one more fight for the 135 division before the title shots, and they may say to Sterling and Garbrandt, "Okay, you're both up there. You're both relatively fresh. You just want to."
Okay, say for instance we're playing fantasy matchmaking right now, and it was Garbrandt versus Sterling for number 1 contendership. Who wins it?
I've got Sterling taking it.
I do.
But I think Sterling has a lot more to develop on his following side, whereas Garbrandt's had a lot more exposure. I think they may give Sterling another fight just to give him that extra exposure to help him develop a bigger fan base. So when he does come to the main event cards, he's going to draw more sales. I think that because they do a poor job of promoting the smaller fighters, unless the smaller fighters are really sort of trying to put themselves out there. Hence why Cejudo thought it was right to do what he did with his the way he was talking and all that nonsense.
Yeah, so I think I agree. I think I would still want Sterling to be the next in line without fighting, but I think like if you had Garbrandt versus Sterling as a main event on a fight night, or even I don't see it as being pay-per-view because there's so many belts now, but as a fight night, I think that sells, that draws. I think the amount of exposure for Sterling, that would be great, and Garbrandt as well. So maybe that could be. You never know. Say for instance, argument's sake, Pitian wins it, and then he breaks his leg or breaks his arm enough hand in the fight or something like that, and he's out for quite a while. The interim title or whatever they want to do from there.
Because like looking at it, like Sterling is the better fighter than Garbrandt, in my opinion.
All round, definitely.
But the reason that Garbrandt took the co-main event with a Sunshine was because he's got a bigger profile, and that was due to the Dillashaw fights.
Yeah, I agree.
Whereas Aljamain would massively benefit from having some higher profile fights to build up his exposure and his profile to then go into a sort of a title shot with a massive hype around him.
Yeah. 2 last points on this bantamweight division because it seems to have stocked this card for us. Cody fighting like he did on Saturday, fighting like that in the future, he could tear down 99% of that division.
100%.
He looks amazing. Number 2, the 135 bantamweight division is probably the most exciting that we'll have for the next 12 to 18 months. if you could move around fights and it makes sense.
Yeah.
You could have Cody versus Sterling, Marais, Petr Aldo, and then all them in between. And then in 12 to 18 months, O'Malley comes into that because he's fought 2 or 3 guys to get into the top 5, top 10. But
I don't think there's a stacked division at the moment in UFC.
I probably agree with that.
Division. They've all got, like, because a lot of the critiques behind the smaller fighters is the finishing power. And this card has just gone to, like, disprove that theory.
Yeah. I think if you look about the division, so let's go quickly, just talk about the male ones for now. So 125 is backlogged because of the missing weight and the rematch in the title fight for Figueiredo and Benavidez. 135 we discussed is stacked. 145 they're doing a rematch there, just shows that how much they haven't got anyone that can sort of step in and cause problems. 155 and 170 are both being held up because of multiple things, COVID-19, people not wanting to fight people, money, Conor, Masvidal. It's just a mess, them 2 divisions, because of all that.
Didn't Conor come out and tweet saying that he's retiring?
Yeah, he's not retired. He'll be back in for he did it 3 or 4 times now.
I know.
185, I think Adesanya's so far ahead that I think it's the next sort of ladder down that are fighting for that. Same with 205 with John Jones. Apparently he's vacated his title and he says it should be Jan Blachowicz versus, who's that guy that Jones just beat but it was controversial? Reyes?
Yes.
That's like the underside, that's great. And then heavyweight, again, Stipe versus DC. I thought that's been semi-confirmed this morning. Then the women's division as well. Valentina's so far above the rest.
Valentina 125.
125. Then 135 is Nunes, which we'll put on to next. She's so far above the rest. 115 is probably the most stacked division for the ladies. That keeps on changing. You think about it, in the last sort of 2 years, you had Joanna Jędrzejczyk, you had Fug Rose, you had Andrade, you had the champion now, Zhang I pronounced that wrong. Then that's changed like 3 or 4 times in the last 2 years. That's a stacked division. So I think 135 in men's and 115 in women's are probably the best divisions right now.
Yeah. I think as well what we've got to note with that before we move on is this, we're not taking away from the champions in there, right? Because just because they're dominating champions doesn't mean that their division's not stacked. Like, they're silver in the middleweight division.
Exactly.
He Ranger in a stacked division. It's just nobody could beat him. John Jones
is a stacked division. It's just that the champion's so far above everyone else.
Yeah. That's the point that I'm just making before.
Yeah,
completely. Little trolls coming on and.
This is exactly what I said about the last week about the silver title, the interim title. Yeah, you don't want it in these divisions, but I feel like if in there, like, I always refer about wrestling, but when you talk about a mid-card title, like you've got the Intercontinental in the US and stuff like that, obviously it wouldn't work in MMA, but I feel like them divisions would benefit in something like that. I think if you had, like, I don't know, like a North American title or something daft like that, yeah, it wouldn't work in MMA. It sounds really daft right now I'm talking
like a regional title.
Yeah, maybe like a regional, or even if you had an intercontinental light heavyweight title where anyone in the world could technically win it, but it's more like a number 1 contender title, or it's more like a building up title.
I think with that you'll get more of a backlog for title fights than actual. Because I was thinking the same thing, but then if you had to win the silver title to then challenge the champion's very rarely going to have fights because they've only got one opponent. Whereas without that second belt, they've got the whole division still as their opponent.
I agree. I know where you're coming from with that. It's just me trying to think out loud. I always try and matchmake and do.
I think what they should do.
Bamo did this perfectly. So Bamo had the world champion, and then they had a sponsor. They had a Lonsdale champion. So like we talked about this with Richard Shaw last week. So Jack Marshall was the Lonsdale champion, and then he fought for the world title against Tom Watson and lost that. He was still a Lonsdale champion. But then I think Tom went to the UFC, so he fought again for the world title, won the world title, and vacated the Lonsdale title. I think that's a clever thing to do. It maybe have the Reebok title, or the fucking Conor McGregor's fucking whiskey title, whatever it's called.
It makes sense. I think maybe for a development roster, they should have Fight Night titles. So for your likes of Hooper, like he's not ready. Like personally, I don't think he's ready to make a run for the main title. But if there was a development division where he can be like, okay, you're still signed by the UFC, you're just on our development roster, which you're going to more often than not feature on Fight Night cards.
Yeah, it's weird because I've said this for years. Boxing is fucked because the people that are involved, the money that's involved, and how many belts are involved. And now I'm arguing the case that maybe you should have more belts to prop things up.
It's finding a fine balance in the middle of it, though, because boxing's watered down, whereas the UFC's belts, I think they've gone too far in the other direction. So 155 to 175, £20 is a huge jump. And then going from...
I know what you mean. 185 to 205 is the big thing. I think it should be every £10. I think that's about right. We said this before. The lower divisions have it perfect. Especially the women's as well, 115, 25, 35, 45, 55. That's perfect. Because you've seen people like Frankie Edgar, who's fought at 55, 45, and 35. That's right. You could someone that small can fluctuate between the three divisions and build exposure and take last minute fights and bring some more money in. Whereas if you're a 185 I like just Ovin St. Preux fights at 205, went up to heavyweight, you could tell the fucking difference there.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like there should be a cruiserweight division around. People say the cruiserweight should be 195. I think a cruiserweight should be around 225.
Yeah, I was about to say 225 and then maybe take the cap off the heavyweight. Maybe push the cap to 280.
I know where you're coming from. I think 265 is right, but then I feel like then you could have, for argument's sake, if Lesnar came back and didn't want to cut weight and then he fought someone big like Derek Lewis, who definitely cuts to 265, you could have a super heavyweight division, there is no cap. So you like a bit like a catchweight fight where you both agree you're going to be at 300 pounds.
Yeah,
but it's a super heavyweight fight. There's not a roster for that for a title. I know there isn't. Like there wasn't really 145 for women until recently. But I feel like I know 170's got history and it's very hard to get rid of that. But I feel like you mute that and you do 165 and 175. You introduce a 195 and then you should introduce around a 225, maybe a 235 at a push. Sort of hit the in between of the heavyweights. I think that's the best way forward.
I think maybe adding the smaller ones first and leaving at the light heavyweight at the moment, and then sort of adding that extra one in once you've seen because I think the first division they need to add is the 165 division.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's the first one they need to add.
It's there in some amateur MMA circuits.
Yeah.
Less 175. I still would argue as a promoter as well that the amateur division, there should be every £5 because it promotes less weight cutting.
Also it'll promote less discipline in the fighters because they'll be like, oh, I don't have to diet down because I've only got to lose £5. Whereas if they stick to what the professional rankings are, they're already treating it like a professional fighter.
Yeah, you're right.
Because I think if you're not serious about fighting, you just want a few amateur fights, catch weights, like you just want to get in there, test your skills, but you don't have a desire to go on to a further career. Catch weights fights you can go forward with.
I'm a big avid supporter of catch weight fights, and this is what I'm more in light of. So, say for instance you had Sterling versus Garbrandt now, you know the 135ers, and you just turn around to him and go, this is a 145 match. It is no one contender for the 135. Maybe it's a bit too of an extreme, that, but something like that where you both know the 135ers, but you just both put on at 145 and you say, look, don't worry about the weight cut, concentrate on your fight. This isn't for the belt. Maybe less so. Maybe more contendership should be at the weight you're fighting at. But maybe O'Malley or something like that. O'Malley's next fight, you're fighting at 140 or 145 against a 135. It's as simple as that. You're not risking each other.
I think it's still important, though, that once they get into that top 10 ranking, that every fight is within the weight division. Again, just more so on the discipline of things. Like, they need to like make sure the diet's in check. And I think, speaking on weight cuts as well, I think the UFC needs to introduce something similar to what ONE FC has done as well. I think MMA in general, to what ONE FC has done, where you've got to weigh in. Is it within 10% or £10?
So you have got to be a certain weight at the start of the camp. You've got to be a certain weight a month out, 2 weeks out, 1 week out. I completely agree with that, but it takes a lot of money and a lot of structuring to put that in place. I feel like the only people that could do that is like ONE FC, your Bellators, your UFCs. It's very difficult to sort out, especially I would not be able to...
I'm not talking for like the grassroots shows, because I think the grassroots shows are should focus more on developing the talent and putting on a great show for the fans. And it should be, the fighters should be doing that off their own back if they want to achieve the heights of the big shows.
Yeah.
Should like treat the first day of their career like they're in the UFC. If that's where they see themselves going.
Yeah, I
think speaking back about what we spoke about Mokiev, he trains like a professional fighter, even though he's an amateur. And look where that's got him.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I like what ONE FC do. I like the guy that runs it. He's very down to earth. He puts things in place well before ahead of people. Like when he signed DJ, he sorted out like a gaming Twitch thing as part of his contract and movie roles and stuff like that. And same with the guy escapes me. He was going to be Dolph Lundgren's son. He was in the UFC.
I know who you mean, but it's not. The name's not there.
I don't want to be shouting at the screen right now when they're watching or listening to this. But yeah, he left the UFC basically because he can get movie roles over in Eastern Europe and stuff like that. But yeah, we'll talk about the main event anyway. We've gone off on a lot of tangents for the right reasons. But I'll let you go over this fight. Nunes and Spencer.
What an absolute performance.
She's the GOAT.
I've got to give it to Felicia for not giving in. Like, she's got heart. She's got a chin. She's got grit. But Nunes is another monster. Like, she just has... She's got them championship qualities that everyone talks about.
Yeah, I feel like...
Great in a community. She's great on the microphone. She promotes fights. She performs. She's defended both of her titles in both divisions.
Yeah.
And she's always looking forward for the next challenge. She's not... It doesn't seem like she's at the point where she's bored or she thinks like she thinks she's the one. It's almost as if like she still thinks there's someone out there to beat her. Like the humility she showed where she went over to Felicia and sort of spoke to her after the fight and give her the bell and being like, and just sort of having that moment with her.
Beautiful, that.
It just shows the humility of her and how good of a champion she actually is.
I feel like Felicia, a bit like the other divisions, I feel like Felicia would probably be the champion if Nunes wasn't there. I feel like she's got a lot going for her. Nunes is just, she's the greatest of all time. She's got everything. I feel like, especially this fight, people said you could have finished or you could have done this differently or whatever. Hindsight's great. But I feel like Amanda loves being in there. I feel like she doesn't want the quick fights. Yeah, she'll take it. But I feel like she likes being in there. That's what she's trained for 25 minutes. And I feel like she had a point to prove, especially from a few fights ago, where saying she's not got a gas tank. She struggles with 5 rounds. She went 5 rounds against Jermaine Durandam. She went 5 rounds against Felicia Spencer. 2 dangerous fighters. And beat them up. But the funny thing is, all the former champions, she's finished. Holly Holm, Miesha Tate, Ronda Rousey. You know what I mean? She's the only person that took her to a division that's now a champion is Valentina Shevchenko.
Yeah.
Who's technically 1 to 2 divisions below her. That just shows how good Valentina is.
Yeah.
You put Valentino and Nunes, and they are... Amanda is the greatest of all time because she beat Valentina and the higher weight and stuff like that and what she's done. But Amanda Nunes, then Valentino, no one comes close to them as what they've done in women's MMA, in my eyes. what they've done for women's MMA, Ronda Rousey's number one by far. But what they've done in women's MMA, in the circle of women's MMA, Amanda Nunes is greatest of all time, and then it's Valentina.
It's almost like Ronda built the platform and was like, ladies, it's your time to take over.
Yeah.
Like, she bowed out gracefully. And yeah, Nunes, she's took that torch and she's running with it. Like, honest, like, I really enjoy watching a fight. I really enjoy a story.
Even my friend who I've worked with for over the years, Mike, he messaged me on Sunday morning just saying, I don't follow this that much, but I watched the Nunes fight this morning. Wow, how good is she? And he doesn't know anyone. He probably knows McGregor and that's it. He probably catches the odd fight. That just shows she resonates with people. And to me, so some people could watch that fight and go, it was boring, it was a mismatch that. It wasn't a mismatch. It's just that Nunes is that good.
Yeah, like Felicia was a champion was it Invicta, where she came from? Yeah.
And Nunes was the official for it, like in the weigh-ins. She was the person in the middle.
Oh, brilliant.
Because is it Ansaroff, her fiance, Nunes' fiance? She was when that was happening. She was like, "That's going to be one of Nunes' next opponents in the future." So she's kept an eye on her since. And from what I've heard recently, I think this is right. Amanda and Ansaroff are expecting their first child, which is great to hear. I think it's just due in September.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so Ansaroff is she was tearing through the bantamweight division, or the flyweight. I get confused where she's at the minute, but she was doing well in that. And then she's like, to Nunes, I'm going to be fighting 6 months after giving birth. And Nunes is like, you're not. I'm fighting. You're not fighting at the minute. So it is a cool story. So possibly by the time Nunes next fights, probably at 135, she's always said she'll fluctuate to defend both belts, which you can't argue. Who has done that? Who said they're going to do that? Who's been the other champions that's done that? DC didn't get the chance to. Conor has never defended any belt he's won. So Cejudo did do it, but now he's retired, so he's not going to keep on doing it.
Couture?
Not simultaneously.
Nah.
Cejudo vacated his flyweight title before he defended his bantamweight. So at this point, Nunes, it's hard to merge the men's and women's pound for pound, but if you did, Nunes is definitely up there.
I think on achievements, like you said, it's hard to merge them for talent-wise and things like that, but for what they've achieved, Nunes is up there for one of the greatest champions the UFC's had.
Yeah. So that's the end of this reviewing this card, and I've enjoyed going off on the tangents about it because it's gotten a lot of debate. The 135, the greatest of all time in Amanda, Sean O'Malley, who else? That was impressive. Alex Perez, Herbert Burns, and Elsie Gilbert, Brian and Cody Starman. It's what is a great card, and I'm happy that we've touched on this in so much detail. We'll quickly go away from the UFC because we'll come back on the card. So I'll talk about the nostalgia side for my weekend. So I watched NXT Takeover in Your House, and if you are a wrestling geek from the 90s and even if you don't watch anymore, basically what happened was in the mid-90s when WCW was starting to ramp up a little bit and Nitro came into it, the design the backs, you had Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, King of the Ring, Survivor Series, SummerSlam. So not in that order, but basically that was the main 5. You was probably paying in America between $40 and $60 per pay-per-view. So they were 3-hour pay-per-views. Vince and the backstage people, we want to do more events. We want to sell more pay-per-views, but let's sell them a bit cheaper. So they did 2.5-hour pay-per-views and we just called them In Your House. So it was like In Your House 1, In Your House 2. And then they started creating names like Canadian Stampede, obviously being in Canada, Bad Blood, Unforgiven, No Mercy. So it's all In Your House, then a name. Buried Alive, Mind Games. Because now we're all in our house because of lockdown. Obviously, it's relieved a little bit more recently. The next NXT Takeover, it was they normally do it like where they are NXT Takeover Philadelphia, New York, New Jersey, them stuff like that. They called it In Your House. They set it up as it was In Your House 1. The stage over the weekend was a house like a front porch sort of thing. Massive, it looked cool as hell. The colour scheme was all the blue, the pink, the yellows, as they did in the 90s. the guy that introduced it all back in the 90s, he was on this card saying that he's come full circle. He's a lot older, he's not been in wrestling for a long time, sort of like the MC. That was cool. They were doing like 90s sort of vignettes, sort of like advertisements and commercials, which was really funny, like the old ice cream bars, and it was really cool to see. Obviously, NXT is a thriving brand. It's hard in this time because the no crowd aspect. So what they did with their NXT World title, you've got Adam Cole, who's been world champion for now 372 days, so over a year. He won it 1st of June last year. He had his year celebration. Then he fought Velveteen Dream, who's one of the most charismatic wrestlers. He's been in like 5 years now, but at the 2-year point, he sort of came into his own. His skill is unreal, and I think he should be the next champion. And I love Adam Cole. I'm so glad he didn't win the belt Velveteen this weekend, and the reason is because there's no crowd. And I feel like he should have his moment. He should have his moment with the fans, the crowd that are supporting the last few years. So what they did with this was very, very clever. The last time they did this was Eddie Guerrero versus John Cena, if I remember rightly, especially in WWE. They did a parking lot brawl. They did it in the 90s as well, where you've got a circle of cars. Normally, it's just you fight until there's a pinfall, no falls count anywhere. But what they did, it was sort of like, it looked like a Universal studio, like a fake prop-up front row of houses, like Coronation Street is. And the ring in the middle of that, and then they're just surrounded by cars at night with headlights on, and was like, right, you're going to have a brawl now. You got cars. Adam Cole got put through from the top of a ladder onto a car. Loads of chairs involved. It was very cleverly done. You can tell it was directed. It wasn't like a match. It was directed. It was cut. It was edited. It was taped. They've done that quite a lot recently because there's no crowd. But I enjoyed it as a whole card. It was something new. The nostalgia I loved. But yeah, that was a good UFC 250 in Your House. I had a great weekend of events. I'm spoiled at the minute. But yeah, we'll see what's next for NXT. WWE have got Backlash this weekend, and they're billing I don't know if it's going to be main event or not. It's Edge versus Randy Orton. Obviously, Edge was out for like 9 years, give or take. He beat Orton at WrestleMania. Now they're billing this as the greatest wrestling match ever. And
I don't know if there'll be Undertaker and Mankind with the old throwing off the top of the Hell in the Cell, but
one of the greatest moments ever. But yeah, they're sort of billing it as the greatest match ever, which is sort of a strange thing to do because they're not the greatest wrestlers. Like, if you're talking, there was a match a few weeks ago on SmackDown, which was Drew Gulak and Daniel Bryan. And that match went about 20 minutes. And in the whole match, they agreed, obviously backstage, they're not going to throw one strike. It's just going to be technical hold, old wrestling, like a bit like catch can sort of thing. And they went not throwing a strike, not throwing a knee. It was just constant mat-based wrestling for 20 minutes. Obviously, it's choreographed and stuff like that. But it was just beautiful to see them, not like the fake punches and the elbows and the slaps. And it was just constant like wrist locks and arm locks and knee locks and takedowns. And it was just beautiful to watch. But they're billing this as like the greatest wrestling match ever. And they're putting like the Greatest Showman theme tunes of it. So like, it's just funny as hell. So that's this weekend. So if you're a wrestling geek like me, there's still a lot to watch.
Might have to check this one out, you know.
But the In Your House, quickly go over the results. Finn Balor beat Damian Priest. That was a good match. Keith Lee. If you've not seen Keith Lee, Simon, the guy is huge, but he moves like a bloody bantamweight. He's that small. The way he moves, he beat Johnny Gargano. Then you had Io Shirai win the women's title. She beat Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley in the triple threat. That was cool. Got Karrion Kross and Tommaso Ciampa. That was a good fight. A good match there. But NXT cards are always the stacked all the time. If you were a wrestling fan and you want to get back into it, and this goes to Simon and anyone that's listening and watching, I would definitely recommend just watching NXT, especially in the last sort of 4 or 5 years since it sort of came in. NXT is what wrestling should be and reminds you sort of more of the 90s. Maybe not as the Attitude Era, but more as the matches are just phenomenal and the crowd are amazing. But less of my wrestling geekness. Simon, what have we got this weekend with UFC?
We have got Jessica I versus Cynthia Calvillo. Or Calvillo.
Calvillo, yeah.
Calvillo.
So, flyweight fight here.
There's a lot of names on the card that I don't recognise. But as soon as I looked at the prelims, there was one that gave me a little bit of a giggle, immaturely of me anyway. Mr. Christian Aguilera.
Oh, Kevin Aguilera.
No, Christian here.
Oh, the first. Oh yeah. You got Kevin Aguilar and then Christian Aguilera. Yeah, that's funny.
I just straight away I was like, this guy's nickname's got to be dirty, and he must have had some Christian Aguilera jokes sent his way.
This. Now you're pointing this out. Are you looking at this on Tapology or?
I am, yeah.
So the first guy who is facing it, Anthony Ivor, he was the guy that was going to step in against Gerald Mulstrap for Ian Henich.
Oh,
That's
wow.
the guy. So that just shows how ready he was. So, and then what I love here, number 1 welterweight Texas ranked is Anthony Ivor, and then this Aguilera, he's number 2 welterweight in the west of the US for regional. So is this their debuts? Let's have a look. So yeah, both their debuts in the UFC. I don't know much about these apart from what we just said. So this could be a cracking fight considering how highly they are ranked regionally in America. So
I think they're having to go, like you said, they're having to go for more local and regional talent with the with a lot of the borders closed at the moment.
Yeah, and this will give people more chance in the money that they've not had before. But we'll quickly go through. So that's at 170, and then we've got Jordan Griffin and Derek Minner at 145. I've not seen them two yet, from what I can remember. Ryan Benoit or Ryan Benoit, I think, and I'm sure it's on this one. It's pronounced Benoit though, against Tyson Nam. This is a great fight. They've both been, from memory, they've been in the UFC for at least a few fights now. I think Tyson might be a bit of a favourite there, but I like watching these two. The next two, I've not really come across before, that much. Julia Avila and Gina Mazzane. No, I can't really say them. Kevin Aguilar and Charles Rosa.
Charles Rosa, wasn't he on? I think wasn't he on a card recently?
Yes, I think they've both been on a fight cards this year. Let's have a look quickly.
Yes, Rosa was the one against Bryce Mitchell.
Yes, so this will be so second fight this year, and then Kevin Aguilar, he fought in February, so this is his second fight this year. They're both coming off losses, so this is a great match fight, as from what I can see. I'm going to have to go with Charles Rosa because of how his defense was against Bryce Mitchell, and I would love to see how he performs. But yeah, this probably could be fight of the night again. So let's see how this one plays out.
Rosa's going to come out with a point to prove, Annie, with especially after the way Bryce performed against him. He's got a point to prove for this one.
Right. So look at the next fight. Look who's in that fight again. Hannah Cyphers. This is her third fight this year. So does she have a day off? So she fought Angela Hill and got beat in the second round by Angela Hill. Angela Hill's on a tear right now. Then she got beat 10 days ago by Mackenzie Dern, knee bar, first round. But she looked good and strong in that fight. So I can see the turnaround because she didn't really get injured. She's going against Maria Agapova. I don't really know this one. Let's have a look. See if she's been in before. Right, Invicta. So she was co-main event in Invicta. This was October last year. Like you say, regional, trying to pull in who's in the country. That will probably be it. I don't know enough about Agapova to say much, but if I can say anything, I really hope Hannah wins this fight because she's come across against one of the best strikers in the division and one of the best ground girls in the division. And I feel like she's better than that. So maybe my heart will go against Hannah when I do my picks on this one. I really hope she gets the performance she deserves because she started out really well against Mackenzie. The next one, I'm sure these have fought in the UFC before this year, definitely.
Espinosa is really ringing a bell.
So Mark De La Rosa and Espinosa done this on purpose. So
you're right.
He's on a 3-fight skid, De La Rosa. He's fought this year. Maybe he might have been cut in different circumstances, but again, local talent. Jordan Espinosa, he's on a 2-fight skid. He's got beat by Alex Perez, who just beat Famega early this year. This is probably a 50-50 fight. I'll probably do my review later in the week. I normally wait to do my proper review, picking my picks after the weigh-ins. I like to watch the weigh-ins and see how people are and stuff, because it does change the way I feel. This next fight, I love this. Right. Do you know Andre Feely? Do you know his nickname?
No.
Andre Touchy Feely.
Brilliant.
I've got him on my roster, just like I said about Sun Show at last card. I've got Jessica Ryan, I've got Andre Feely. I love these two fighters. Touchy Feely, he's probably got one of the best names in MMA.
Yeah.
He fought earlier this year and got beat by Sodiq Yusuf, a Nigerian fighter, one of the best in the division at featherweight. Is it featherweight? Yeah, featherweight. Feely is a great fighter. Charles Jourdain is a great fighter as well. He's 1-on-1 in the UFC. Feely's been in a lot longer. He's been in since like 2013, right? He made his debut on Velasquez dos Santos 3. That was October 13. So Touchy Feely's been in a while. He's beat Miles Jury. He's beat Dennis Bermudez. He's beat Artem Lobov. He's fought Yud Rodriguez, Michael Johnson. So I would probably lean towards Feely, but I think that's a cracking fight towards the main card. I think that's probably the first fight on the main card. Oh, second fight on the main card. Ray Borg, didn't he fight?
Like 3 weeks ago.
Is it less than that?
Lost a decision.
Oh, Ricky Simone. Yeah, that's it. Split decision. Yeah. Merab how many of these names can I not pronounce?
Devilash. Let's call him Merab.
Mr. Merab. If anyone knows how to pronounce these names, by the way, please get in touch.
Yeah, send us a voice note to the page or something.
Yeah, so Merab beat Casey Kenny. Merab, where is he? I feel like that name more.
Done a 3-fight win streak as well.
This is the guy from Sarah Jiu-Jitsu, so Matt Sarah and Ray Longo's camp as well. So I think there's Askarov as well, Askarov. So I think Merab takes this. Ray Borg's a great fighter, but
has he recovered from the last fight? That's the question.
They've both been beat by Ricky Simone. Ricky Simone beat Merab 3 fights ago.
Oh, okay.
Technical guillotine in round 3, so it must have made him pass out right at the end. But yeah, I know we're going through this quite quickly, but we've not reviewed it that much. We've done a lot on 250, so we won't want to. We'll probably talk more on it on our next one. And then I'm sure this next fight between Carlos and Martin Vettori, I'm sure it was booked. Yeah, for the 13th of May. I think Robertson didn't get medical. Yeah, Robertson withdrew due to illness after the weigh-ins because there was a bit of a kerfuffle. Love that word. In the hotel. Vettori was pissed because of it. Talked on him a bitch and stuff like that.
The second time it got rearranged, wasn't it?
The first fight was only because of the COVID, 25th of April. So the 13th of May, it got moved to there. So they weighed in. Carl Robertson failed a medical afterwards, pulled out because of illness, I think weight cut. And then they seen each other in the foyer, and then Vettori was just giving him shit, like proper going into him. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next. They were both due to fight different people. I feel like Vettori will take this. He seems more intense. But maybe this is what gets him because he wants to kill this guy for taking away a payday a month ago. Maybe that's the reason. Not a bad co-main event, really.
No, not at all. I'm not too familiar with the two fighters in the main event, but I've got a feeling that the co-main might outshine the main event just with the added backstory you've added there as well.
So, Jessica Rai, she's been in the UFC quite a while now. So, in her early career, she went no contest against Sarah Kaufman, lost to Alexa Davis, then beat Leslie Smith. Leslie Smith, I'm sure, is still the matchmaker for Invicta. So she was for a while anyway, when she retired. But then she got beat by good fighters. So she got beat by Miesha Tate, Juliana Pena, Sarah McMahon, Betch Cahill. That's 4-fight skid there. But then she sort of came into her own. She beat Kalindra Faria. Then she beat Jessica Rose Clark. Then she beat Caitlin Chukugian in 2018, who's just fought for a title. So that was back on it. Then she fought for the title against Valentina Shevchenko. She got beat in that one. It was a great finish by Valentina. We touched on her earlier on. Then she came back December last year, got the win. So I feel like she's picking herself back up. With Calvillo, she's been in quite a while. She's a grappler outside as well. She's beat Courtney Casey. She beat Joanna Calderwood, Amanda Cooper, Gillian Robertson. So she's come through the ranks. I just don't think she's got the experience I's got, and I think I would probably finish her. But yeah, she's been on Quintet Ultra, this Calvillo, so she's not scared to fight. She's been matched with Claudia Gadelha. I think that fell through. She got beat by Carla Esparza. She beat Joanna Calderwood. She's now the number one contender for Valentino. They should have been fighting on Saturday, just gone, but because of COVID, Joanne can't get over. Maybe that's a fight on Fight Island, Joanne versus Valentino.
That'd be interesting.
But yeah, like you say, if you don't know them that much, maybe this is where one of them comes into your mindset for future. But I see Jessica taking this one. I hope she does, because I need the points for hearing Jessica and touchy feeler. Because I didn't have the best weekend with a Sunshine. I think I got like -2 points because he got finished. But great weekend just gone with me, 250 and Takeover. Then I've got we got Iron Calvillo Fight Night, and then you've got Backlash with Drury. Football comes back next week for the Premier League next Wednesday. I think
who's the first game?
The first game is Wednesday. 2 games. You got Sheffield United and Aston Villa, and then you got City and Arsenal that night. They're the sort of catch-up games, the Iron Bear game. And then from Friday onwards, I think there's a Premier League game at least every day for about 4 weeks. The Championship comes back that weekend as well. They've probably got games every day for about 4 weeks. La Liga in Spain, that's back this week. I think it's this week anyway. Serie A in Italy is back the week after the Premier League in 2 weeks. And considering how bad Italy were 6-8 weeks ago, you didn't think they would be anywhere near putting any sort of events on. Also, it's all behind closed doors for now. But yeah, you probably heard the rumours recently that they're talking about opening pubs and bars outside as of the 22nd of June.
Yeah, it's been confirmed now, hasn't it, for Beer Gardens? I believe so, yeah.
So I presume Boris will be doing something at some point on Thursday, which is a couple of days from now. So it's moving in the right direction. We won't touch on. I don't really want to touch on recent events because it's so split on people's views. I don't think it's right to have an opinion right now. People, like we said before, people should do them.
I think the important thing though is there's a conversation that's been started.
Yes.
And it's a conversation that's been needed for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it's hopefully going to move things in a better direction than it has been in the past.
Yeah, I agree. But we won't end on that negative note. We've had not like it's a negative note per se, but this conversation is a positive note. That how it's come about is not the best, and it's sad. But we'll end on a positive one. MMA generally is good right now. That kills about the 135 division. Interesting to see. I think the matchmakers meet on Tuesday, which is today. So we'll see what comes out in the next few days for future.
That'll be interesting.
Fight Island is rumoured for Abu Dhabi now. That seems to be where it's pushing towards. That makes sense. They've not really got a lot down per se. They've their numbers have been quite low. So we'll see. Fight Island is sort of on the horizon. We've got this weekend, we've got 20th, 27th. Then the UFC's got a week off. Then we've got 3 Fight Islands, as confirmed by Mr. Richard Shaw last week on the podcast. We have spoke with Jack Shaw, and we'll be getting him on once his fight's confirmed. Same with Jack Marshall, we'll get him on. We've got another guy who's probably going to be on Fight Island. I won't say his name because I don't want to put any spoilers out for anyone and get him in trouble, but we'll probably get him on. We've got a couple of good guests coming up, which we won't say just in case it falls through. But
exciting couple of weeks, though.
Yeah, exciting couple of weeks. Again, if you want to get on or any questions or anything like that, hit us up. But yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you later in the week.
See you and enjoy your week, guys. Peace.